Good morning. It's about 2 or 3 weeks since I've managed to get a video out, and there's been quite a few changes at the allotment, I think anyway. And since it's the beginning of August, first few days in August, I thought I would do a little plot tour. So last time you saw this border, it was full of potato plants. I've still got a row left there, which are pink fir apple, not quite ready to come out yet. I've had my first earlies out, which I think I've showed you, and I've also taken my main crop out. They were ready pretty much faster than I thought they would be. They were Maris Pipers, and we had a fabulous crop. There, I've seen so many potatoes off one plant. It's all off one plant. Look at that. That's unbelievable, that. But yeah, they're all out now, and in their place I've got in rows and rows of leeks, which I'm hoping will have got enough time left in this summer to get to a decent size, and I can just overwinter them and pick them as I want. And here, you probably can't see, is some kale and some chard and beetroot, a few rows of beetroot. I am attempting this year to plant a lot of kale in my borders, which we don't really eat, but it's for the hens, because in the winter there is slim pickings as far as greens go for the hens, so it's lovely to have kale there we can pick for them. This is my red cabbages, winter cabbages. I just pushed these into this field strawberry bed just because I had the space. They're coming on quite nicely, but there is quite a lot of slug damage on. I haven't looked at them much with the net being over them, so I think I'll go through them now and see if I can find anything, because I think I've just spotted some caterpillars on one of them, so the netting isn't really working. Yeah, quite a few caterpillars tucked right inside the heads of those cabbages, so I've pulled what I can out, but they're a bit of a mess. We'll just have to see how they progress. Anyway, I want to show you this comfrey. Can you see it? Am I in the way? If you might remember, I cut it right down to the ground when it started flowering for the first time. I give the bees a chance to get a bit of nectar and what have you, but I cut it right down to the ground to start building a new compost, and so it started to grow up again immediately. I haven't cut it down again, but I have harvested a lot of leaves from there for another compost and also to feed the hens, and still it's coming on fantastically. It's flowering again, so yeah, just to show you how resilient a comfrey is, because they're such a useful plant. You can keep cropping them and they keep coming back. Well, yeah, as you can see, we're at that time of year with the courgettes. This is the courgettes here. I think I've got about 5 plants here. As you would expect, yes, we've got loads of courgettes. This is a particularly nice variety, which I only picked yesterday, and there's loads here. I'm going to show you this one. Oh, this one I missed yesterday. Let's use my back. That's the variety. It's Trieste, I think it is, or am I mixing that? Anyway, it's called Courgette. It's got this very light skin. They're really nice courgette, very tender and very sweet. I tend to find the dark green ones quite bitter and the skin can be quite tough. These are really nice. I'll be definitely growing these again. Although I would have to say that some of the plants don't appear to be cropping. Maybe I'm just being impatient, maybe they will crop, but the ones that are cropping are doing fine, and we've certainly got enough to be going on with. And then this border here is top to bottom is my winter squash. I have got 2 different varieties in here. The names have escaped us as usual. I think a Victor Hugo, maybe an Anna Schwartz. They're doing fine, but there's not a great deal of fruit. I'll show you what I have got's good, but there's very little of it. So tucked in here, you can see this thing, and it's getting quite big. Looks like a great big alien thing, doesn't it? An alien egg or a dinosaur egg. And another one in there, which again is big. Both the same variety, so only one variety appears to be cropping just yet. Good size. So yeah, just 4 little squash on, I think there's 5 or 6 plants in there. So at the minute I'm disappointed with it, but obviously there's plenty of time yet. So let's keep our fingers crossed and wait and see what happens. This empty border here had my broad beans in, but they are out now, and I've got a little story to tell you about this. I was watching a garden video on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and these people were in the southern states of America, and they were putting in a second crop of potatoes, and they were calculating their first possible frost date, wondering if they had time. Anyway, they did it, and at that point I started to think about my garden and our frost date and wondering if it was possible here. So according to the information, potatoes need between 70 and 120 days to reach maturity until the plant you can dig up a decent crop. And the first frost date here, which is actually surprising to me, is the 10th of December. Now, I knew we didn't get early frosts here. We live right on the coast, and you know, the climate's pretty kind generally. We don't get any very severe weather. So with that in mind, I calculated it out. 10th of December, first frost date, and it's beginning of August. It was the end of July then. Loads of time, easily the 120 days. So I went in the cupboard, and there was just some shop potatoes, and they hadn't even really started sprouting, a couple of little nubs, but I thought I'm going to give it a try and I'm going to get them in the ground. So that's what I've done. I've just pushed in some potatoes. I don't even know what variety they are. In this little border, it's an experiment, and if it works, I'll be getting December potatoes, which will be pretty amazing. Now, I know a lot of people do their Christmas potatoes and they put them into the polytunnel or the greenhouse to protect them, but really all that's going to do to benefit the potato, as far as I can understand it, is to protect it from frost. Well, if we don't get a frost, then there's no issue. And I suppose when it gets closer to the time, I'll keep an eye on the weather, and if it looks like it's going to get too cold, I could always quickly come up and, you know, just cover them with something to protect them. So I have got a little sprout coming up. I'll show you. There you go. It seems like the wrong time of year, but it's my first little potato sprout for my second crop of potatoes. This is the little trough that I've got the squash in, the winter squash. Nice one there, and there's another one, small one there. I don't really expect, I think I only got 2 squash off this last year, just with it being such a small growing space. I would like to get another 1 or 2, but it doesn't look like it. So a little update on my secret garden, which if you didn't watch the video, we have started to try and reclaim this little area out the back of the allotment, which is just public land. So if you can look up this row here, you can see I've planted squash all the way up the back there. They're still quite small. I'll turn you around. Terrified I'm going to drop my camera through this fence because I haven't got the ladder with me. And there you go, there's some more squash heading up that way. I've only lost 2 of them to slugs, and I've got comfrey and all sorts of other things. Everything's doing well. We've only had to go over once or twice to water because the rain has come at opportune moments. So yeah, the secret garden is doing well. I'm pleased with it. It's better than I expected. I thought they would very quickly get overwhelmed with weeds, but at the minute the weeds are staying down under control, and we'll take you back over. If we do get a crop, if there was squash, can get to maturity, and we can harvest some, I'll take you across. I've actually also got, which I forgot to tell you, is a couple of cucumbers there. In behind the fence there, and climbing up the fence, some cucumbers. Nothing off them so far. And then there's another one over there. Fingers crossed for them. This is the border that I planted the New Zealand yams in. I think I showed that in a couple of videos ago. I took my onions and my garlic out. I've got yams in. They're just sitting there. They're doing fine. They're settling in. In the next month, I'd expect them to start coming away and growing. We've got these poppy seeds, which we are harvesting at the minute. So I've been putting them in my bread. I've got some beetroot there. I had broad beans down here. I've taken these out. And I've put some broccoli in. I also had broccoli which finished, and I've put some more in. I don't know whether you can recall the tale. I had made a full container full of liquid fertiliser with comfrey and borage. Oh, the wind's getting up. And I lost the whole lot when the tap got knocked out. I've since replaced the tap, and I've put in some more comfrey and borage, and I've made another liquid fertiliser. So that was a good little step forward for us, because I'd lost heart after I lost the whole lot of it. That's just about ready now. A lot of these borders, it's funny, it's like going back to spring, because they're all kind of just look empty with just little seedlings in. This one I had cabbages in, which have all been harvested, and I had broccoli at the far side. Again, that's all been harvested. The kale will just sit there forever, which is fine. In that place I put more leeks. I've got lots of leeks this year. And on the other side, I believe it's more broccoli, but it could be cabbage. I think it's broccoli again. I'm starting to get mixed up. It's at that time. And I must remember to tell you as well about the tomatoes at home in the greenhouse. They've done amazingly. I have showed you a couple of times on different videos how they were coming along. They're cropping now. What I'm doing is I'm picking them as soon as they get a little bit of a blush on, because the plants themselves have started to just die back. So I want to get the fruit to ripen. So every day I go through and I just pick anything that's got a blush on it, and I take it in the house and it ripens off fine. And I've had mounds and mounds of little cherry tomatoes. I mean, what I would say is the taste of them isn't anything spectacular. They're fine. They're just a nice little cherry tomato. But the amount is great. So I have saved seed from those tomatoes. There were a variety called Mascotka, and they've done really well for me in the greenhouse. Outside in the back garden as well, I've got some moneymaker and I think another cherry type of tomato and some gardener's delight. And really, I've just let my tomatoes go off and do their own thing this year. I've given them very little care. Really, I think it's a reaction, a trauma from last year, because I looked after my tomatoes so well. I took all the side shoots out and I had them staked beautifully and lots of nice air, and the leaves removed, and they all got blight, and I lost almost the whole lot. This year I've just let them go, and so far so good. However, this weather, it's very damp, very humid. We're getting quite a bit of rain, so we'll see. But at least I've had the cherry tomatoes out of the greenhouse. So this border here is a bit of a mishmash. It's a bit of a mess, really. It was my prettiest border, but it ain't now, that's for sure. I can hardly even remember what I've had in here. I've had chard, I've had lots of beetroot, but now I've got lots of leeks coming all the way up here. I'm letting this chard here go to seed because I'm collecting seed. I've got leeks over the other side, and I'm waiting for some beetroot to swell up a bit, but other than that there's not much going on in there. These are the runner beans. They're looking a lot more healthy now. Initially the leaves were quite yellow and it didn't seem to be very thick. It didn't seem to be thriving very much, This was a new border, and I think it was something to do with the soil, so I fed them a bit and they seem to be doing a bit better, but still not a huge amount of flowers. We allow our runner beans to just stay on the plant and ripen, and we use the actual beans inside the pods because we're not very fussy on the pods themselves. They're a bit hairy, aren't they? Even when you pick them young, I think they're hairy. In the front here we had the peas, and they're all finished now. I've got a row of Swedes and I've got a row of, I think it's cabbages. I've kind of forgotten what I've put in. I'll just have to wait and see how they come on, and then we'll find out. And these are all the French beans. I've got a climbing French bean, which was called, it's a zebra bean, which gets, see if I can show you, it gets a lovely kind of speckledy pod, which unfortunately when you cook them it just goes green again. And I've got both ones in here, purple ones and some green ones at the far end, so they're cropping at the minute. That's, apart from the courgettes, that's my main crop at the minute. It's a bit hard to keep up with them, which is lovely. I've also got a dwarf runner bean here, which I really do like because the blossom is so pretty. This is the celery that I've been growing for the first time this year. I noticed yesterday it was looking rather yellow, so I have taken some of the fertilizer that I was making in the water butt there. I poured that on, so hopefully in a couple of days that's going to start to green up a bit more. And finally I've got this Asturian tree cabbage, which has been growing along just great. It doesn't get as big as I expected it to, but you get nice big leaves and they just keep coming, a bit like kale, and you keep picking them. Just use them like cabbage, which is great, and I'm hoping I might be able to overwinter them and they'll come back next year. Anyway, that's it. A quick skip round the allotment. I'm running out of battery on my phone, so I'm going to end it there. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you next time. Bye.